Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. My name is Versi Adams. I'm an Exemplar Global Certified AS9100 Auditor and Consultant. And what I'm going to be doing today with you for a while is going through context of the organization, specifically Clause 4.0 of the AS9100 ISO 9001 standard. And the way we're going to start, we'll start with 4.1, understanding the organization and its context. So the organization shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and its strategic direction and that affect its ability to achieve the intended results of its quality management system. The organization shall monitor and review information about these external and internal issues. Okay, now moving on further to subclause 4.2. Understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. Due to their effect or potential effect on the organization's ability to consistently provide products and services that meet customer and applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, the organization shall determine A, the interested parties that are relevant to the quality management system, and B, the requirements of these interested parties that are relevant to the quality management system. The organization shall monitor and review information about these interested parties and their relevant requirements. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is break down further for you what is meant by the clause 4.2, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. And what I've done is I've restated the subclauses A and B below, which is A, the interested parties that are relevant to the quality management system, and then B, the requirements of these interested parties that are relevant to the quality management system. And then once again, the organization shall monitor and review information about these interested parties and their relevant requirements. So what we have in front of you here is a CODO log, which is an acronym for context of the organization. And the intent of this CODO log is to list the interested parties, as you can see in column B, and in column C, the issues of concern. And column D is the treatment method, which is for addressing those issues of concern. And then column E is the record reference notes. And this is basically where the documents associated with this treatment method are located within this within the company's quality management system. And so, for example, let's go to item number 6, line item 6 on the CODO log, which is direct customer. So we've identified the direct customer as an interested party, and issues of concern: expect high quality products. The treatment method is we have a risk register and an FMEA, which an acronym for failure mode and effect analysis. And then the record or reference for the notes is we're referring to the risk register. And if we go into this a little bit further, let's take a look at, like, for example, line item 12, which is employee and staff. They're an interested party. Their issues of concern are that they require appropriate training. The treatment method for that is training provided, assessed through audits. And then the record or reference for those notes are going to be in the training records and in the audit record files. Again, so this is a very simple tool to use to, again, address and identify the interested parties, what their issues of concern are, the treatment method, and then where the records are going to be stored at in terms of those treatment methods for the issues of concern that are identified for the specific interested parties. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that you need to be reviewing this list periodically per the standard. This list needs to be monitored. So whatever the frequency is that you determine for monitoring these issues of concern that are listed here for these interested parties that have been identified, you state the frequency, whether you do it quarterly, semi-annually, annually, just whatever you do state as your frequency for reviewing this, to stay consistent with it and make sure you do follow your own process as you defined. Okay, so we're going to get into the next subclause of context of the organization, which is 4.3, determining the scope of the quality management system. The organization shall determine the boundaries and applicability of the quality management system to establish its scope. When determining this scope, the organization shall consider A, the external and internal issues referred to in 4.1, B, the requirements of relevant interested parties referred to in 4.2, and C, the products and services of the organization. The organization shall apply all of the requirements of this international standard if they are applicable within the determined scope of its quality management system. The scope of the organization's quality management system shall be available and be maintained as documented information. The scope shall state the types of products and services covered and provide justification for any requirement of this international standard that the organization determines is not applicable to the scope of its quality management system. Conformity to this international standard may only be claimed if the requirements determined as not being applicable do not affect the organization's ability or responsibility to ensure the conformity of its products and services and the enhancement of customer satisfaction. Okay, so let's get into what is meant by 4.3, determining the scope of the quality management system. Okay, what I've got here in front of you is a certificate of registration for an organization that is certified to the AS9100D and ISO 9001-2015 standard. This is what a typical certificate of registration certification is going to look like. They all vary somewhat depending on the registrar, but they all must have the same basic content. And what's important here in terms of determining the scope of the quality management system, you see here below where it says holds certificate number, there's a statement there that says the design and development, manufacture and distribution of resin formulations, prepregs, and adhesives. So that is the organization's scope. Okay, that is the scope of the quality management system. It's what they do. It's what the organization, it's their processes and what they produce, and basically the boundaries of the quality management system. So by reading this, it's clear that this organization designs, they develop, they manufacture, and then they distribute resin formulations, prepregs, and adhesives. So that's the scope of the quality management system. And you're also going to see that scope referenced in their quality manual as well. Okay, so again, their scope of the quality management system is going to be stated in their certification if they are certified to an ISO 9001 standard. If not, that scope basically needs to be stated in their quality management, in their quality manual, excuse me. Okay. Okay, what I want to do is give you another example of a scope of the quality management system. Okay, and here again is another certificate of registration for a company. This time they are certified to ISO 9001-2015, and just below where it says holds certificate number, it states precision machine fabrication, welding, and value-added assembly of components, subassemblies, and final assemblies for the semi-cap, aerospace, medical, and commercial industries. Okay, so again, this is the scope of the quality management system. This is a statement that needs to be documented. So it's going to be documented again in their certificate of registration if they are in fact certified to an ISO standard. If not, at a minimum, it needs to be stated in their quality manual, and it needs to be documented in the quality manual. Okay, so again, this is another example of the scope of the quality management system. Okay, this is the last subclause of 4.0 context of the organization, which is 4.41 and 4.42. Now these are a little lengthy, so what I'm going to do, there's going to be 3 slides following this slide where I'm going to be breaking down for you what all of this means for you and what you need to do to comply to the requirements as stated in 441 and 442. So the organization shall establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve a quality management system, including the processes needed and their interactions in accordance with the requirements of this international standard. The organization shall determine the processes needed for the quality management system and their application throughout the organization, and shall A, determine the inputs required and the outputs expected for these processes, B, determine the sequence and interaction of these processes, C, determine and apply the criteria and methods, including monitoring, measurements, and related performance indicators needed to ensure the effective operation and control of these processes. D, determine the resources needed for these processes and ensure their availability. E, assign the responsibilities and authorities for these processes. F, address the risks and opportunities as determined in accordance with the requirements of 6.1. G, evaluate these processes and implement any changes needed to ensure that these processes achieve their intended results. And H, improve the processes and the quality management system. Now, 4.4.2, to the extent necessary, the organization shall maintain documented information to support the operation of its processes, and B, retain documented information to have confidence that the processes are being carried out as planned. Okay, so as we stated before in the previous slide, the organization shall determine the processes needed for the quality management system and their application throughout the organization, and shall A, determine the inputs required and the outputs expected from these processes, B, determine the sequence and interaction of these processes, and C, determine and apply the criteria and methods, including monitoring, measurements, and related performance indicators needed to ensure the effective operation and control of these processes. Okay, so what you have here is, to the left here is a diagram referred to as an IOP, which stands for interaction of process. So what we've done in this diagram, in the very far left column, straight up and down, you see the organization's key processes listed here, which in this case are customer orders, engineering, purchasing, production, quality assurance, and shipping. And in the middle column, it states the activities that are related to that specific process. Okay, and then in the very far right column, it lists the QOPs, the quality operating procedures, that state those specific activities and how they're to be carried out and by whom they're to be carried out within the organization. So what this IOP does is it explains the inputs required and the outputs expected from these processes. It also determines the sequence and interaction of these processes. And then, last but not least, it determines the criteria and the methods for monitoring and measurements, which are dictated by the QOPs, which are the quality operating procedures. So this is what we need to do and we need to see implemented within the organization. Okay, so moving further on under section 4.41, subclause D and subclause E. E, determine the resources needed for these processes and ensure their availability. And E, assign the responsibilities and authorities for these processes. So what I have here is two examples of organizational charts for organizations. And this is the most widely used and the most acceptable method to convey how you determine the resources needed and also how you assign responsibilities and authorities for your internal processes. And these organizational charts here you see, one is for the Alameda County Public Health Department and the other one is for a fictitious organization supermarket chain. And so you typically see the hierarchy from the company president down to everybody who reports into him and so on and so forth. So again, this is the most widely used and most acceptable means of communicating how you identify the resources needed for your internal processes, and then also how you assign the responsibilities and authorities for these processes. Another common tool which auditors like myself, are going to look for is that you've determined and documented job descriptions, and you also have related training plans associated with those job descriptions. Okay, now finishing up with clause 4.41, subclause F and subclause G. F, address the risk and opportunities as determined in accordance with the requirements of 6.1. And then G, evaluate these processes and implement any changes needed to ensure that these processes achieve their intended results. So what I have here in front of you are two examples of risk analysis tools. The one to the left is a PFMEA, which is a process failure mode and effect analysis. And the one to the right is a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. These are two commonly used risk analysis tools that are widely accepted by auditors such as me and registrar auditors as well. However you implement these tools within your organization, you should be considering at least one or both of these tools as appropriate to you in your organization.